Hi, I'm Kenny Joya. Welcome to another one of my tutorials. In this video, I'm going to show you the free drum machine plugin Sitala in Reaper. In these next series of videos, I'm going to focus on third-party plugins to help us with our productions, focusing mainly on virtual instruments or virtual instrument plugins. And these are all going to be free to download and use. The first one is a drum machine plugin called Sitala. I chose this one because it's free, it works with Windows, Macs, and Linux, and it couldn't be simpler to use. So it's a great way to get started with your first productions. So let's take a look. When you go to their website, it looks like this. Like I said, a very simple drum machine plugin. Then we can go right here and download the installer. And after we install it, we can open up Reaper. Let's create a new track, double click, name it drums, put it in record. Let's set the input to be our MIDI, USB MIDI keyboard right here. Now if I play my keyboard, we can see level over here, letting us know it's working. Now just so you know, this keyboard down here is not a part of Reaper. It just represents my USB keyboard, so you can see when I'm playing it. So now I'm going to put a plugin on this track. Go to Track Effects, and let's search Sitala, and here's that plugin we installed. Double click it, and here's what the plugin looks like. And right down here, we can see all the drum sounds. We got a kick, snare, and so on. And right below it, we can see the keyboard notes that are going to trigger it. Now we can change the mapping of those notes. If we go up here to the menu, by default, they're set to chromatic keys. We could change it to white keys or general MIDI, or even choose to MIDI learn whatever keys we want. So if I choose my kick and hit a key on my keyboard, it's going to change and be triggered by that key, which is really useful if you have a MIDI controller with drum pads like this, where they might be assigned to some random notes. We can just change it all right here. I'm going to put it back to general MIDI. And then we can trigger these sounds based on the notes down here. Now, as you can tell, this plugin comes with a bunch of sounds, or at least one kit, but we can add our own samples if we want. We can just right-click on a pad, load sample, or browse samples from here. But the easiest way to do it in Reaper is to go up here to the View menu and choose Media Explorer. That opens up this window where we could choose sounds from a hard drive and preview them from here. And if we like one, we can just drag it in and drop it on these pads. And now that sound is going to be triggered when we hit that key. And we can also adjust or shape each sound using the parameters over here. For example, if we choose the kick, we could adjust the shape right here, which is going to shorten that note, or fade it in. And we can do each note differently just by choosing it first. So we do the snare, we can adjust the shape separately from the kick. Notice how it fades in. Or cuts short. And we can also tune the samples right here. We can compress them right here to make them hit a bit harder. We can also change the tone or the EQ right here. And to reset each parameter, just double click them and they go back to the default. And we could also adjust the volume of each one and also the pan. And we're done tweaking these. We could save it as a kit. Right over here, save kit as, or add it to the user kits. I already saved a kit that I set up using these sounds and just tweaking these parameters. Let's check it out right here. And it's pretty much the same as the default with a few minor changes. Except I added a sample to this pad and this pad, and they sound like this. It's the same sample, I just tuned them a bit differently. They sounded like this by default. Just one long chord, but I cut them down, adjusted their shape, compression, and tuning to make them sound like this. Just to add some pitch to our drum machine. We don't just have to use drums with this plugin. Any sample will work. Now we could just record a drum part using the USB keyboard down here, but I find it more inspiring to use the MIDI editor as a drum sequencer. Let me show you. Let's close this. Turn on snapping in the grid. Let's create a MIDI item. On PC, it's Control, and on Mac, it's Command. And just draw in a MIDI item. This one's exactly 1 bar long, but we can do as many bars as you want. Now we should also create a loop. Go up here to the ruler from bar 1 to bar 2, turn on looping down here, turn on the metronome right here, then we can double click it to open up the MIDI editor, and it looks like this. Over on the left here, this is called the piano roll. But for drums or samples, I prefer to change the view. Right over here, click this one, and it changes to named notes. Notice the samples show their names. Our kick, snare, and so on, making it easier to see what notes we're drawing in. Change the size of our notes right here. Let's start with 16ths, and let's draw in a part. I like to start with the snare and put some hits on beat 2 and beat 4. So just draw it in right here by dragging, bring the volume up right here all the way, and do the same on beat 4. Let's hear it. Then let's add in a hand clap right here. Now for the hi-hat, I'm going to hold down some modifiers so we can paint in the notes. Control-Alt on the PC or Command-Option on the Mac. And just draw on the closed hi-hat like this. That's going to give us perfect 16th notes. Now I want to replace some of these notes with an open hat. So let's move this one up here and do the same with this one and this one, just to change it up a bit. Next, I want to change the 16th hi-hat part to add in some 32nd notes. So I'm going to change the grid down here to 30-second notes. Right-click over here to select all those hi-hats. And let's trim them to make them smaller. They're still going to sound the same, but now we can add in some 30-second notes. Let's try one right here. And this is one of the reasons I prefer to use the MIDI editor as a drum sequencer, because we can just try out different random things. Double click to delete them. Now let's add in a kick part. Let's switch this back to 16th notes. Notice how easy we could try out different parts. And then finally, I want to add in those chords for some musical notes. Right up here. And what's nice about this is we can reopen our plugin and still retweak the sounds later. Maybe change the pitch of our kick. Or the shape of our snare. Or the length of our chords. Or keep them longer. So as you can tell, this is a pretty powerful VST instrument drum machine. And like I said, it's completely free. So it's a very quick way of programming drums and using drum samples in Reaper. So that's pretty much it. That's the free drum machine plugin, Sitala, in Reaper. I hope you learned something, hope you can use it, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.
Bye.